love TVs. I've been reviewing them for many years, but it's a tough thing to get into. Most people aren't buying new TVs every couple years, maybe once every 5 to 10 years. We've seen such a huge jump in TV qualities on the high end and on the lower end. They're all some version of good. So as I went to thinking about making this video, I've been playing a lot of video games, and I am nuts hyped for Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation. So I just called this video, the best TVs for PlayStation 5, but assume when I say that, I'm talking about Xbox as well, sort of next-gen consoles. So I discovered the only thing harder than finding a next-gen console, Xbox or PS alike, is finding the right TV to fit your budget. And technologies across TVs have become so similar, and their acronyms are insanely confusing. It's no longer simple of, if I buy the most expensive TV I can afford, that will be the best one. That is most definitely not the case anymore, especially when it comes to gaming. But here are some that'll take advantage of features of the next-gen consoles. So bear in mind too about this that TV prices change like gas prices. Every 2 minutes they are going up and down. So anytime I'm quoting prices in this video, assume that they're kind of in like a range there. All right, so let's start with some LED and QLED options. These tend to be on the more budget side. Typically pick these up for around the same price, actually a PS5, depending on the size. But just because they're less expensive does not mean they are bad TV, especially for gaming. So in fact, I was able to game and test TVs from TCL and Hisense this year. I was pretty blown away at the picture quality of these sets, especially for their price. The ones I tested specifically was the 6 series for TCL, it's their QLED set, and Hisense's U6H LED. Now there's typical caveats for LEDs and QLED sets. If you sit sort of too off to the side, the picture tends to get a bit washed out. The blacks aren't gonna be perfectly black. There'll be some blooming, high contrast areas, but for most people, that's not going to matter. Now, just because those are the only sets that I tested this year, there are a bunch of other manufacturers making LED and QLED sets, but those are some of the manufacturers that I had a chance to actually spend extensive time with this year. And many people that are gaming aren't gaming off to the side of a TV anyway, so the issues won't matter. So unless you're gaming in a room that is just like a ton of natural light that you can't control, these sets will look pretty good for you. Where they do fall short though, on certain sets, is not all of them can display everything the PS5 next-gen consoles are gonna be capable of. If you want 120 Hertz, for example, and if you're considering an LED or QLED set, make sure to check whether or not the TV can support that. Some of them can only display up to 60 Hertz. Outside of that though, they do come in a variety of sizes, and like I said, they are plenty bright for I think most people. QLED TVs especially punch up the vibrancy of colors and produce an image that tends to make your games look great. That's what you're looking for sort of out of the box. These gaming experiences on those sets should be absolutely perfect for you. All right, so let's take a step into mini LED. TV brands for some reason have generally gone seemingly out of their way to make the marketing of these TVs and their acronyms the most confusing out of anything on this list. So LG calls mini LED, it's QNED. Samsung calls it Neo QLED. TCL calls it OD0, and Sony, who's known for long names, just calls it mini LED. So fist bump to you, Sony. But essentially the tech is more or less the same. They're more expensive, but you get a lot of features for that price. So it's taking the technology of QLED and LED TVs and shrinking those rear panel LEDs into mini LEDs. What that translates to is generally not only a brighter image, but image with more local dimming zones. This is gonna create less blooming around objects, darker background, and do a much better job representing blacks as extremely dark versions of gray. So much so, a lot of times you'd be hard pressed to not think that those are OLED blacks if you calibrate the sets the right way. So this means you can watch movies, shows, and of course game in brighter rooms without the picture getting a bit washed out. With these sets, you're also getting higher grade features, usually things like multiple 4K HDMI 2.1 ports capable of 120 Hertz, game optimizers to help you reduce latency, and turn on things like VRR, better HDR color representation, better contrast ratios, and depth to that image. I recently got to check out Sony's X95K, and out of all the mini LED sets I've tested this year, this is a standout. Some of the complaints I have with mini LEDs is that the viewing angle is not a ton better than some of the higher level QLEDs out there. And straight out of the box, the picture tends to be a little too kind of bright and blown out. You gotta go deep into picture settings to pull sort of these sets to their full potential. And when you do, certain occasions, I prefer them to OLED sets. However, the Sony X95K Mini LED, as a lot of Sony TVs tend to be, was pretty great out of the box. Plenty of 4K 2.1 ports, picture was bright and punchy, colors were vibrant. The depth of the image was what was really surprising. Typically, I'm a chump for Spider-Man, but that's generally what I'm playing on the PS5. Decided to branch out a bit, put on some God of War, and it looked really good. A mini LED is a technology that varies a lot between brands. Now, which brand you get, if you like to watch TV or game in a bright room with a ton of windows or light coming in, these are TVs that I definitely can recommend checking out. This is where we get to the higher end of the price points, getting into the world of OLED, the so-called king of TV tech. In fact, after trying to decide what I wanted for a new TV, I purchased a WOLED. In fact, I bought the LG G2. I came super close to going with Sony's QD OLED, but the main thing that stopped me from doing that is they can't come in sizes over 65 inches. So if you need a giant TV and you've got the budget, OLED is still your only way to go, at least as of this filming. Both TV technologies offer some of the best picture quality I've ever seen. With it being OLED, you get those perfect blacks, near perfect contrast ratio with almost no perceivable blooming at all, and a bright and vibrant image that elevates the viewing experience of pretty much everything you're watching, whether it's a movie, show, or playing a game. Older OLEDs are known for suffering in bright rooms. The ones I'm talking about here are the newer OLED tech that can get considerably brighter. While the Sony QD OLED, I think would have given an overall better picture than the G2. Again, I went LG G2 simply because I wanted a bigger TV. I think it did a really good job maintaining detail in the highlights, even in bright rooms, any other TV on the market. A big concern people have too, I saw this in the comment section when I did the review of my G2s, people were worried about burn-in. Now LG will tell you, and most modern WOLED manufacturers will tell you it's not a concern. They do things in the background to reduce burn-in. I believe it. I am still very paranoid about burn-in. So I don't know, maybe it's all in my head, but something to at least keep in mind. So I stare at TVs all the time. I love reviewing different sets as they come in, but for people who don't pay that much attention to TVs, I was always curious what they thought. My previous TV before the LG G2 was about a 6-year-old Sony. It was an LED set, it was awesome. But I asked my kids, what they thought about the new set while they were, watching TV or playing some games. This was their thought. Nate, man, let me ask you, what do you think about our new TV?
I really like it because it's much bigger. The colors are better.
How do games look on it?
Really good.
Yeah?
I like how the TV is so big and the graphics look better than our old TV.
When you say better, what does better mean to you?
Like they look better than the last TV.
But like better how?
Because it's not so like glitching.
It's clearer, you think?
Yeah.
Interesting. Anything else?
And it's bigger.
They couldn't articulate why it looked better, but it was very clear that things have improved and technology has gotten bonkers good when it comes to TVs. I'm bringing this up because these TVs and the QD OLED and WOLED technology is still very expensive. And for a lot of folks, it's out of the price point of affordability, but you need to consider how close mini LED can get. The question that I had, and probably you have if you're looking at these sets, is am I going to get a $1,000 or $2,000, even $3,000 better viewing experience if I went top of the line OLED or QD OLED? For a lot of people, the answer is probably going to be no, but there is something kind of intangible about how good these sets look, even if you can't put your finger on what it is. I recommend going and looking at these sets, go to a Best Buy if you're able and see if you can tell a difference and then decide if it's worth spending that extra money. Now, if you are open to spending the money, the QD OLED, especially the A95K from Sony, is probably the best gaming experience going right now. With it being a Sony, it of course talks to Sony products a bit better. There's extra features like better HDR tone mapping for PS5 games you simply can't get access to on another set. But overall, I figured the gaming experience would be the best on these sets. But again, to get that experience, come to the price. So this is mostly a video for gaming on a big TV, mounted on a wall or on a stand. I know there's a lot of people that game on a monitor and want a smaller experience gaming on your desk. Things like the LG C2 is a great option, but maybe that's a topic for another video. And there are a lot of other brands that I didn't mention and a lot of other TVs from the brands that I did mention. It's just the ones that I've personally had a chance to check out this year. And when I learned about TVs, everyone is really good. Even the lower, least expensive TV option out there still ended up looking really good in the right scenario. It's like cell phones out there nowadays. You have to look hard to find a bad one. As you figure out what to get for your next gen console, whether it's Xbox or PS5, hopefully this helps you figure out where you want to put your budget, what you want to spend on, where you want to save.